Hey, welcome everybody. It's Tepidromo. It's Epic Encore time. And I have Darby Rollins with me. We met a couple of years ago in the Titans Accelerator Master. You were a presenter, and I signed up for your program because this is great. I want to keep learning AI. It was brand new at the time, and you've just been really good inspiration for me. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Ted.
So how did you get on this AI bandwagon?
And would never believe it if you followed the journey before a company called Jasper got started. I was actually doing Amazon consulting for clients on Amazon, selling products, building listings. Had a small little freelance agency at the time, and had been doing it for a few years. And it's just a lot of work writing copy for Amazon listings, the research involved, building out bullet points, and doing all the things that go into building a converting listing. And I was talking with my roommate at the time, Austin Distal, who was working with a company that had just got access to this early open AI thing. And it's like, what is this stuff? And
Right.
seems like it could be pretty big. And I was like, I could probably use this for my Amazon listings. And he said, let's introduce you to Dave and see if it makes sense to start working with these tools. And talked to Dave Rogemoser, the CEO of Jasper. It was then just called Conversion AI, I think is what the first name of it was, and sent him $100 to get some credits and start using it, and became their first user. And I just went all in because I thought it was the coolest thing. Started building templates with the team and started training people on how to use AI to write books, believe it or not, because I had never written a book before and I always wanted to be able to say I was a published author, self-published or whatever you want to call it. And I was at a point in time about 3 weeks into using Jasper where another user in the community had shared a process he was using Jasper for creating blog posts. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I wrote like a 5,000 word blog post in like 30 minutes or something like that, which is the biggest blog post that I'd probably written to date. I was not producing content for myself as a freelancer, which is hard to stand out. And I was like, well, if I can do that in 30 minutes, I bet I could write a book in a weekend if I put my head down to do it, to use as a lead generator for my business. And
Yeah.
I locked my fiance, remember, she's like, I just locked myself in a room for a weekend and came out of it with a designed a cover on Canva, wrote the manuscript in a Google Doc, and figured out how to publish it on Amazon. And I literally had a printed copy in my hand less
Wow.
than a week later. It was crazy. And I was never had thought that I was going to write a book that fast. Not that it was a world like a best-selling New York Times, flying
Yeah.
off the shelf, but it did end up landing me a few new clients and a few new projects over the course of the next month or so, because I was talking about it a bit. I was connecting with people, letting them know I did this. Hey, did you know I also can build Amazon listings? And that also at the same time sparked a lot of interest inside of the community about how, oh, I'm a business owner. Like, I'd love to learn how to use Jasper to write a book. And it was like a kind of one of those pivotal moments where I was like, like I'm just gonna figure out this how to teach people how to use these tools, because there was really no like a lot of information about there at all at that time, in those really early days. And so to me, that got me into AI, and what has kept me involved and excited with it is the community and the excitement, but also the ability that it gives myself and those that like understand how the power of it and how to leverage it to really just create and be able to build really anything that you want.
Mhm.
But I mean, I see it. There's like two trains here. It's like one side of the fence, people are like, nope, not going to work. Like, I'm just going to watch this train and just go by. And there's people that are catching up and jumping on and riding the train.
Yeah.
And it's going fast and it's picking up speed. And so there's never a dull moment, it seems like. Hard to keep up with everything, obviously. But, one of the things that I really enjoyed throughout the years is connecting with folks like yourself, podcasting, just connecting with other people that are using the tools and learning new ways and new workflows and new methods to like use it for our business, but also just like our lives in general, and like giving, you know, a little bit more excitement to the redundancy and or maybe the loneliness that you might feel being an entrepreneur just by yourself. And like, okay, I need to figure out how to do this. Well, now I have my co-pilot ChatGPT, or I'm using Claude, or we've got, people in the community that are sharing insights as well. And so hard to go at this journey alone. But with AI and some good humans in the mix,
Yeah.
the ability to co-create is really what keeps me moving when it comes down to it.
You're making me think here. I'm like, my career started 45 years ago in the tech world. I'm like, oh
Wow.
my God. But I've never seen anything in 45 years take off like this. Like the internet came, Al Gore said he invented it, and that big joke. But things really took off when the browser was created.
Yeah.
But the internet took off, but it's nothing like this. This is just crazy how fast AI is moving. So how
Yeah.
do you keep up with, what's new? Because literally every day it seems like there's some new
Yeah.
release coming from one of the providers.
Yeah, I mean, I follow a few newsletters. There's probably like four or five that I just subscribe to that are sending out kind of what's happening in the world of AI. And I'd even tried to start one of these newsletters right after ChatGPT started. I saw there's obviously a need for people to keep up with these tools, and it was just like got to the point where I was like, these guys really have it dialed in. I'm just going to follow a few of these folks who are, really, really bringing in kind of like what's new, what's happening, but trying to also stay focused on like what I can control in the business too, and like how much time is like actually needed to be spent on investigating new tools or otherwise. And so every week, and once a month, depending on which group we're talking about in our community. We meet, we talk, we share wins, and then we just kind of connect over like this is some new tools that we found this week. This is where they're used, where they're not, and maybe like one out of every eight tools I'll actually like use from those like conversations, those insights, but through like just hearing what's working for other people, and especially those that are like actually out doing the tools and not just reading headlines and
Right.
getting right? Oh, like we did this with our this new tool and it got us X, or hey, here's like how I'm seeing it used. Here's maybe some ways that it could benefit you, because a lot of us will have some understanding of what we're focused on. And so
Right.
you can kind of recommend like, hey, I saw this tool, maybe it could help with what you're trying to build on that front. And again, like crazy how many tools there are, but you find that one tool can just give you so much leverage in what you're doing. It's a lot of times it's just a matter of, knowing what you need done and then just finding the tool out there, because it may already be made if you haven't found it already. Just
Probably I'm kind of hearing like pick
yeah.
one tool and get really good at it. Don't try to
Yeah.
learn 10 tools and be mediocre at all 10.
Yeah, and that's what like that question came up a lot when like, oh, you use Jasper. Well, what other tools do you use? And it's like, well, like early before you even chat GPT, I'm like, I like why try to use like eight different AI writing tools? Like just use one. Like a lot of them are pulling from the same kind of sources of context anyways, from like OpenAI or Anthropic. And so it's like
Yeah.
they're kind of accomplishing the same thing at the end of the day, but it's more about like how you're using the tool and the mindset and the approach to like how it fits inside of what you're doing to make you more effective at what you're doing,
Right.
more productive and that stuff. And then yeah, it's like better to be great at one than like mediocre at best at like 10. And it's hard to stack those skills, so to speak.
You want
But
to
I
be
think
like
like
the brain surgeon that's really good at one thing.
yeah, but it certainly takes like playing around with a bunch of tools to get to the point where you know what is kind of like your powerhouse and know that you want to stay in. And I think like you find that in a lot of cases where,
Right.
depending on what your business is, what your goals are, like one tool might work great for one person, but it might not make any sense for you to have that tool in your stack. And so
Right. So a lot of the people watching this have probably heard of AI. They
yeah.
may have a Chat GPT account, but they don't really know how to use it. So what advice would you give them like to get the most out? You don't just type questions in there.
Mhm.
You created recipes, right? That was one of the things you taught me right early on.
Yeah. So if you're just starting out with AI, think of it like a great assistant that you can talk with, chat with, brainstorm with, and you know, use for a number of different things to help with automating and streamlining the type of content or the type of work that you're attempting to do. But if you don't know what your outcome is, then AI can help you go a lot of directions very fast, but not all of those might end up being the direction that you actually want to go. And so before you even start with ChatGPT, I tell everyone just like figure out what's the outcome and then kind of what's that outline to get you to the outline. Like a book, if you don't know what your topic is, if you don't know who you're talking to, and you don't know where to even find them, like let's think about this first, and then we come up with a book idea, then we write an outline, and then we start to fill in each chapter, like similar to like how you're going to use ChatGPT. Going in with an idea of what you want to create first and foremost is where I would start. But the second thing is AI is great at following like frameworks and guidelines. And if you don't have instructions, then it can go like again very fast, but in a lot of different directions. But
Yeah.
if you give, you said recipes, some people call these workflows or maybe like prompts or a number of different ways that you might um, like term like what you're saying to the AI. But at the end of the day, it's like do this, then do this, then do this, then do this, and you can actually stack a lot of these different sequences on top of each other.
Mhm.
Um, and to be effective with it, if you're starting a chat GPT instance, for one, I make sure that the chat is turned to not training the model. Just for anyone that's doing it, you want to keep your information private. Just make sure that in your settings that you're tuned to like just keeping an account private to your account. That way that everything is safe and secure in there. And then if you want to write like a book outline, for example, you're not just going to say write me. You could, but say write me a book about like how to have more fun and be more productive at work. Like, okay, well, here's my generic outline about how to do that. And I start to brainstorm a little bit.
Right.
But what if instead you said, oh, actually, I've spoken on this topic 15 times in the last year. I have keynote presentations. I have all of this knowledge and insight that I'm bringing to the table from my experience. Let me give you this first.
Right.
And then I really like the way that this book outline is made from this author. Let me get an outline of like what that structure looks like. Say like, hey, based on this book outline, I want you to like write a structure for an outline based on this model and then reference all of my context before you start helping me with writing a book. Do that first, prime the chat, and then say like, okay, now that you know these things, I want you to give me 5 title ideas for this book based on my knowledge, and then write 5 outline ideas based on this framework. And you're going to get to that point of quality much, much faster because now you're co-creating with it. You're bringing your own ideas and insights to the table, and you're giving it the structure that you want it to follow uh, to get to that end result much faster. And so that would be where I would start with anyone. And if you can get good at that first, and you can do something, and I would focus on the thing that you want to spend the most time on. If it's a blog post, figure out how to get your blog posts done a bit faster,
Yeah.
or a number
Like
of other things. But
when I
once you
got
do
my,
that, yeah.
I got a deal to write Ultimate Guide to LinkedIn for Business like
Hmm.
14 years ago now, and I'd never written a book. So I went to Amazon. I looked at the top 10 selling books on LinkedIn. I bought them and read them. And then I went through all the chapters, like the table of contents of like probably 50 books. Like, what are they teaching? What are the
Hmm.
gaps? What else could I teach? And that research took like a month. And then I
Hmm.
had, okay, here's my outline for the book. And now you can do it in like an hour or less with
Yeah,
chat.
no, yeah, it's wild how much it'll speed up, any number of these processes. And the thing is you don't want to start in my opinion, with AI and anything is you don't want to start going into automation too quickly, even though you can automate almost anything now. But getting to the point where you have refined kind of the prompts and the workflow and everything that's going to make the most sense. I spend a lot of time doing that manually by prompting and refining a framework and figuring out what's the best flow here that's going to get the best result that I'm looking for. And once I've got that dialed in, then I'm going to move on to the next step, which is creating a custom GPT or a workflow that is using an automation from something like make.com, or maybe you have Zapier in the mix or otherwise. But again, if you don't have the outline and the context and everything to start with, you're just kind of putting the cart before the horse when trying to automate everything. And so just focus on the 80/20 of what you're doing right now.
Right.
What's something that you love to spend less time doing so you can do more time working on other things? And let's figure out how to automate that or at least take some of that off your plate. And you can literally work with ChatGPT to help you with coming up with ways that you can improve on your processes. Like tell it your problem. I'm dealing with this XXXYZ. How would you help me solve this if I was an AI? Oh, well, I would do this. I would come up with these prompts. I would do X, Y, or Z. Okay, great. Well, can you come up with the prompts for this now? And it'll take what it gave as an outline, and then you can actually have it write the prompts for you. So you really don't need to be a prompt engineer, but you
Yeah.
need to know how to communicate to articulate the result that you're looking for. And the more clear and effective you can be with communicating, the better the results you're going to get with the AI.
Yeah. When I started researching Epic Encore, I used one of your recipes. I kind of like, I'm my own best customer. I'm, at that approaching retirement age, but I don't want to retire. I want to stay engaged. So I know my demographics. So I used your recipe and I said, okay, who am I looking for here? What are their challenges? What's their personality? Gave me an incredible amount of information about this. Then I just started writing content related to those different topics. And I started building an email list because the people started responding. And I have a Substack now and I have a medium.com and I put my LinkedIn. So I'm using all the information from your recipe that gave me the answers. So I got the answers to the test before I took the test. It's so it's awesome what's happening here.
When we were talking just before we started recording about validating the information from these two, because the recipe you're referring to is our market sauce
Yeah.
recipe, and it's the method that we have developed and you are using as other members are using to kind of get inside the mind of your market, speak the language that your audience is speaking, and using that to inform your decisions, competitor analysis, seeing where the gaps are in the market, and then like validating the language by having real human to human interaction. And you were saying that it was mind blowing how
Yeah, we
accurate
had
it
a
was,
dinner with
which yeah.
eight guys or three of us that knew each other. We all invited friends. So there's eight guys that didn't really know each other. And throughout the 3 hour dinner, I kept hearing all these phrases that came out from the recipe, like what their feelings are and what they're struggling with and what they want to do with their retirement. It was just unbelievable. I was like, wow, this is surreal. So this stuff really works.
Yeah, it's amazing to think about. It's only been 3 years, 3.5 years since almost Q4. So
Yeah,
almost 4 years since like this whole journey started for me and getting involved with the AI world, so to speak, and how much has changed in just a number of years and kind of where things are going. And so it's something I think if anyone is getting into this and is like overwhelmed, it's totally fine to feel overwhelmed. There's a lot of stuff, there's a lot of noise. And it's hard to kind of identify what's the real signal with a lot of stuff, what's just hype and what's like where are you gonna, get your information from? We're talking about like who do you subscribe to, the
yeah,
newsletters, the podcasts that you listen to, all of the stuff that is goes into creating AI. I think it's more important to just in general think about like what do you really want your life to look like when you're working, because in probably not many more than a few years from now, we're gonna like everyone's gonna have their own AI agents, or you're gonna be doing stuff the ancient dinosaur way of accomplishing something without an agent, which won't be bad in every case. Like there's going to be a lot of value to going through the process and doing the work. And again, it's like just because you can't automate doesn't mean you should
right.
everything. But at the same time, knowing how to adapt with the speed of change, I feel like it's just as important of a skill set as knowing like that I can do this with that tool. It's like, well, that could be obsolete in 2 weeks
Right.
because one of these big players that is putting all of their chips in the AI basket right now, and these massive companies are putting so much money into it. Like it's a an AI war or whatever you want to call it for like everyone's fighting to win.
Yeah.
And so like that's out of our control. That's out of my control anyways. And so it's like, oh, I can't control how I can react to these situations and what I can focus on. And, at the end of the day, I think it still comes down to if AI is going to do 80% or 100% of the things that you would do on your normal day to day, what
Right.
are like actually the 2 to 3 things that you really enjoy doing, you want to do more of, and just identifying and figuring out what you want your business life to look like, assuming 80% of that was like your AI assistant agent is off making phone calls, booking dinner reservations.
Yeah.
Reading all your emails. They're replying to all your emails. They're doing transactions for you. I mean, I think that's something we're going to see is these agents are going to start to interact and engage with other AI agents. You're going to see doing commerce with agents
Yeah.
and humans. Humans being like, oh, I need to talk to Ted's agent who's going to help with my interview process. You know,
Yeah.
the, but you can't replace the me and you here having this phone call. You can't replace the in-person connection.
Right.
I think the events and experiences that bring humans together are going to be so much more valuable, and that will be the luxury experience
Yeah.
that people are going to be craving because not everyone wants to go to a business and just talk to an AI and not have any human interaction. Maybe for some
It's
businesses,
good for some things. Yeah.
for some things for sure, but then like again, it's like if you're doing any of this, it might not even be business related. It's like you just want to spend more time with your family and not do all this stuff. Do you really just, what if you could just work like 2 hours or 4 hours a day on anything and then just
Right.
focus on other stuff?
So tell me more about Market Sauce. We got a couple minutes left here. You created this
Yeah.
Market Sauce, which is you started as a recipe, right?
Yeah, MarketSauce for anyone that's interested in really digging in. It's a recipe we laid out in this book, Buyer's Brief. You can find it on Amazon and it's on our website, which is essentially a deep dive market research and competitor intelligence workflow that is going to get you the psychographics, demographics, and more on a deep level for who exactly your target audience is. And in doing so, it's helping you clarify and speaking the language and the message that your audience is already maybe saying to themselves. They're using this terminology online because AI knows a lot about a lot of stuff online. And with the right resources and tools and prompting to tell it what direction and where to go find certain information, we've developed this market sauce methodology to be able to go and gather that by using different AI tools that we work together. And you can use it with as simple as a ChatGPT account. But we have a lot of automations and additional things going on in the background when we're doing it for our clients and using it to just condense the time that it would traditionally have taken to do this type of research from weeks or months to hours, really, when it comes down to it. And
Yeah.
then using that information to accelerate your ideas into the market to test and refine the messaging, but to have that stuff land and know what's working so that you then take it back and refine the the outputs that you're creating, the brief that you're putting together for your clients, so that you have a really well-defined plan for what to say, who you're saying it to, where do they hang out online, and like how does your product solve the problem that they're experiencing and related to the benefit they're looking to get from the product and how your business is backing that up with features, right? And so if you can speak to that and speak your audience's language better than they even probably can speak it themselves,
Yeah.
you're going to be able to cut through a lot of noise that way. And you're going to be able to build more trust that way. And you're going to be able to engage more effectively that way and leading with empathy and, problem solving in this case. It's a great way to innovate and refine your current products and services to make an even better experience, to deliver more value. And so you see this in a number of different applications. But I mean, yours is one of a great example of running it through, refining the process, testing it back, and saying, "That's great. I'm on the right track." And that validation alone, I think, is worth its weight in gold because otherwise, everything is just guesswork.
Right.
And so, if we can eliminate as much of that guesswork as possible and give you those insights in the analysis to really have a solid, deep understanding of your market, you're going to be able to make better decisions across the board.
Yeah. It gets you right. It narrows it right in there, bullseye almost. And then you can just keep going deeper and deeper and then
Mhm.
explore other paths too.
And that's the thing. I think the cherry on top is that a lot of business owners are marketing or developing or creating products for what they think is maybe like one or two target audiences,
Yeah.
but there's likely dozens of different segments of your market that your messaging could be catering to and could be completely new opportunities for creating products or creating a totally different market that's right there under under your nose.
Yeah.
You're just not speaking their language. You're not addressing what's going on in their world and how your brand or business can solve their problems. But you run one of these buyers briefs and say, "Oh, I knew that was my target audience." Yeah, but like, "Oh, well, I never even thought about these other four or five."
Right.
Like that's a whole new world of possibility.
Yeah. So how do people learn more about how you can help them?
Yeah, if you want to learn more about what we're up to, you can go to genaiuniversity.com and subscribe to our newsletter. We send out, a few emails a week, sometimes more, sometimes less, about stuff that we're doing and building inside of our community. We do have a membership on our website as well, which you are a part of that you can check out. And I'm easy to connect with. Just respond back to our emails on our newsletter. I read all the emails and respond back to. I try to every single one. And then if you're interested in MarketSauce specifically, go to marketsauce.ai, and there's a few different resources, and the website is being updated a bit right now, and so I don't know exactly what is going to be on there by the time you're
Yeah.
posting this. But yeah, like that's going to be more specific around the methodology, the done for you services that we provide, because we've got all the systems built to do it, but also if you just get the book, it comes with a number of resources that'll help you with like going deeper into the process and just understanding that what the method is, so that when you do put it to practice, you know what to use when and where, and just again be a lot more effective with your market research.
Great, Darby. This has been fantastic. We could talk for hours on this, but I know you
Yeah.
got to run. Thank you so much for your time.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me, Ted. It's been a pleasure.